Hi everyone and welcome back to Learning Kitchen Live. My name is Giselle and I am one of the dietitians here at Community Servings. Today we will be celebrating Cinco de Mayo with a plant-based enchilada topped with a homemade enchilada sauce. But before we dive into the cooking, I would like to thank our friends at Boston Scientific for their support of this program. I also want to remind everyone today who's watching the show or in the future that in the comments section of this video, you will find a copy of today's recipe, as well as a survey that help us understand or learn more about what do you like to see here during our live cooking demos. All right, so let's get started. For this recipe today, it's a veggie and black bean enchilada. We are using whole wheat tortillas for this recipe. So I'm just going to start here. It's very simple, very easy, not a lot of mass. So you need a skillet. I already have it on high heat, a little bit of oil, and as you know, this is a veggie forward enchilada, so there will be lots of vegetables, some black beans, and whole grains. So we will saute the onions for about a minute or two, just until they're fragrant and a little translucent. Shouldn't take that long. So today's Cinco de Mayo, and I did a little research to get an understanding of what we are actually celebrating today. So I feel like a lot of us may think that today is Mexico Independence Day, but it's actually not. This holiday, it's mainly celebrated in the United States, not a very huge holiday in Mexico, actually. The banks are still open, things are still happening. Today's Cinco de Mayo celebrates a day in which the Mexicans were able to get rid of the French in the Battle of Puebla. So this is very specific for a part of Mexico, and in that area, Puebla, they do celebrate this holiday. The holiday became popular here in America with Mexican Americans as a way of celebrating their heritage, their culture, and the pride that they have for fighting so hard back in the 1800s to get the French out of their country and fight for the democracy and their freedom. So I really like that, and let's just keep that in mind today when you're out and celebrating that this is a very special holiday for our friends in Mexico, Mexicans, and we can be respectful. All right, so history aside, the recipe that I would like to that I'm focusing on today, besides being a celebration of Mexican culture, it's also to highlight something that I have noticed that it's been happening over the past couple of years, which is a huge influx and a lot of information, a lot of news in social media or newspaper about plant-based eating. All right, so next step, so I don't forget about this, is our garlic, very quickly. So what is plant-based eating? It's actually very fluid in terms of how much plant or how much protein animal you want to include it in your diet. You can go as strict as a vegan and eliminate all sorts of animal products, but you can also be what they call nowadays a flexitarian. So you're a little more flexible, in which you could have plant-based meals as part of your evening dinners as much as you want. Maybe you can start, if this is something new to you, you may want to start with like a meatless Monday and have like a plant-based recipe for that day. All right, so back to the recipe here. I am going to add bell peppers, some broccoli. The recipe calls for spinach, but I didn't have spinach, so I'm doing a little extra, adding a little extra broccoli. I think plant-based diets became popular over the past 3 years because, one, because the pandemic also helped make this eating pattern more popular. People really focus on their health. People really want to improve their health, and it's known that eating more plant foods, less processed foods, it may prevent heart disease, certain types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, can also help with the environment. When we eat less animal products, we are helping the planet. One way is that a lot of the plants that are grown are used to feed the cattle, the cows. So by skipping that, you eat the vegetables and you skip the cow. So there's less damage to the planet, and you're definitely also doing some good for your body. All right, so I added all the vegetables that I have in here. You can see it's very colorful, and color means antioxidants, different vitamins. So the more colorful the meals are, the better is the chances of getting a variety of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So I really look how pretty it is. I'm not cooking this for too long because I like the broccoli to have a little bit of a bite. I also want to tell you that I cut all these vegetables ahead of time, but I kept them into like little bite sizes, so they are not bigger than the bean themselves. I have all these spices here. I have a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of chili powder, salt and pepper. I already mixed them all together, and I'm just gonna spread right over. The juice of half a lemon, lime. Ooh, smells really good. So as you can see, it's taking me a couple of minutes to put this together. It probably took me about 15 minutes to chop and organize all the ingredients that I was going to use for this recipe, but probably total won't take you more than half an hour. In order to keep this recipe somewhat lower in salt, I'm using a no salt added black bean. If you don't have one, make sure that you're rinsing your beans before using them. That helps removing some of the added salt that is used in canned foods as a way of preserving them. All right, I feel pretty good that this is good to go. Remember, this is also going to go in the oven, so it's going to continue to cook a little more. So I don't want it to overcook. Like again, I like the broccoli to have a little bit of a bite and a crunch. All right, so this is done. Get this out of the way. All right, so the next step is to make the enchiladas. So enchiladas are small roll-ups, and I'm using whole wheat tortillas for this recipe. A couple of reasons why I'm doing this. One is that you get a lot more fiber and also protein. So one tortilla like this has 6 grams of protein. All right, that is the same amount of protein you get in one egg. So it's pretty good. You won't think that a whole wheat anything has that much protein, but it does. So anytime you can, if you could try switch it over to a whole grain version of your rice, your pasta, your tortilla. You're not only getting more fiber, you're also getting protein. All right, so we are going to add a little bit of, this is a homemade red enchilada sauce that I made. The recipe is also posted in the comment section of this video. I didn't make it, I made this ahead of time. It's very, very easy. It's basically tomato puree, saute half of onion and garlic and some of the same spices that I added to the beans here. You cook, you simmer for 30 minutes and it thickens and it's really delicious. So the recipe calls for about 1/4 cup of the enchilada sauce to be added to the beans. So I'm doing that right now. Just mix it together for some extra flavor. And the next step will be to put a little bit at the bottom of your baking pan. I also add a little bit of olive oil or oil at the bottom just to make sure that when they go in the oven, they don't get stuck. All right, so this is probably enough. I want to make sure that I have some left to top it off. All right, so let me move this out of the way. So here's my tortilla. I'm using 1/4 cup for measuring the filling that I'm going to add to the enchilada, but I want to do 1/2 cup, so 2 of these. 1. And if you have kids at home, this is a great way of getting them involved. I'm sure kids will love to have a chance of like rolling this themselves. It can be a little messy, but can also be fun. So make sure you pull it in, you roll it, and the same side down. So 1. I want to do 1/2 cup, so lots of it. This is to keep you full and make sure that, you're not missing anything. You're going to feel pretty satisfied with this. There's again, there's plenty of protein per serving. A serving size of this recipe is 2 of these enchiladas, and it gives you about 30 grams of protein. So for those who don't think that a plant-based eating pattern or plant-based meal will give you enough protein, think twice. It does. And you're not only getting lots of protein, you're also getting more fiber than if you are having a piece of chicken, right? Chicken doesn't have any fiber, you get the protein. This, you get about the same amount of protein, but you're also getting fiber. All right. If you have any leftovers, you can save this and you can eat it later. You can put this on top of your salad. You can turn it into a quesadilla later on. Many ways of using it. You can just eat it as it is. I had a bowl of that before we started. All right, last one. I'm gonna use my homemade enchilada sauce. And some cheese. I do about like 2 tablespoons of shredded cheese per quesadilla. So about 1.5 tablespoons here, a little more. And it goes in the oven for about 15-20 minutes at 400. All right, be right back. All right, here it is what a serving size looks like. So you can, it's a pretty good size. You have two quesadillas, two enchiladas, lots of fiber, lots of protein, for not a whole lot of money. So the recipe calls for 6 tortillas. You get 3 serving sizes, three servings out of the recipe, and each serving is 2 enchiladas. I hope you like it. I hope you try it and enjoy it. And please leave any comments if you do. Thank you so much.